Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast. I am your host, Mario Di Leone, and today's topic is going to be a unique one. Today is what it's not, the power of what we call emotional differentiation. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and just break down what we'll be covering and what that is. So, in this episode, we're going to explore the powerful truth. Sometimes the only way to know what something is by knowing what it is not. So, for love and confidence, for example, or from shame to fear. So, we're going to unpack how our understanding deepens when we look at this contrast. This isn't just philosophy, it's psychology. So, we are learning how differentiation can become your emotional compass. It can help you massively. This video can help you in a massive way. So it kind of goes with a discussion I just had with a friend where we talk about a statue. Like human beings are much like a statue. And this is a metaphor, is that you don't keep adding clay to a statue. You strip it away until the form is actually revealed. So what a lot of people are trying to do nowadays is keep adding things onto themselves. They add more car, more house, more information, more books, more knowledge, more this, more that. They keep adding things. So when they're dealing with their own traumas, and some people may not have the luxury of getting psychological help, they keep adding things onto themselves, right? And what my argument is with this is that that only goes so far. That adding, the constant adding of things can actually be misdirected and it could also be misunderstood. Why? Because once you understand the root cause of where that trauma is, you understand the root belief, when you understand the root issue, then you're able to kind of layer that information on. When you don't get to the root cause, you're looking in the mouth for a cavity that you can't find. So you just keep layering things in there. So what's important to understand is that the truth has to be revealed. It's all about going to the root of something. And that's how the truth works. You have to go to the core. And when you do that, we begin to understand like what love actually is. You understand what love is by understanding what it's not. What does this mean? It means that you have to go to that root cause. Now, I'm going to give you some examples right here. This is emotional contrast, we could call it that, or differentiation. So if we look at the emotion of love, let's look at what it's not. Love is not possession, it is not control, and it is also not abandonment. Now, the contrast or differentiation insight here is that true love respects freedom and also respects presence as well. Now, when we look at the next emotion, which is confidence, how do we know what confidence isn't? Well, confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is not perfectionism. Confidence allows for error, and arrogance cannot allow for error. So we could always go to one and then understand the other. When we take a look at success, what it is not is busyness, grind, grind until you wear yourself down. Success is wealth to some people, and of course, external things, chasing external objects all the time. The insight is that success aligns with internal fulfillment. Most people will come under the idea of like, well, you can get freedom. It's all about having more freedom, more time, more of those things. There are limits. There are borderlines. There's a lot of gray areas that are here. The way it was explained to me once by a CEO, I was about 25 years old and I met a CEO and I asked him in the middle of his office, What is success? What is true success? And he said to me, success is not the man that works 80 hours a week and make 100,000. He said, success is the man that works 25 to 30 hours a week and makes 200,000 or more. And the true success was he had time with his family. He was able to go away with his family. He was able to have meaningful connections with people. That success was not just financial markers, but also emotional markers, emotional connection markers. There's many different markers to success. There's not just wealth. It's not just objects. It's not just externals like we believe it to be because social media likes to perpetuate that concept. So it connects with the internal fulfillment. And sometimes when we're chasing externals all the time, we try to fill that internal void through external things. And no matter what we get or acquire, we never feel like it's enough. We don't come to a place of contentment. We have to have a level of appreciation of who we are on the inside, being content with who we are, but also coming to a point of, hey, you know what? This is really good. Like I have something good here. Let me just go ahead and maintain what I got. And some people will just keep falling into the trap of more, 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 more. And this is why sometimes you see some successful people, they hit more and more and more and more, and then all of a sudden their success collapses, they drop down, and now they have to build it all the way back up again. They have to go through that journey again. And that journey wouldn't be a bad thing because they say, you know what, I've done it before, I can do it again. Not a big deal. So you have to have some internal happiness. And if we're constantly seeking externals, guess what? So to find success, what success is not is being busy all the time, grinding, constantly grinding the wealth, all the external objects, because quite honestly, there's also spiritual success, there's family success, there's travel, there's all of these different markers. We are being short-sighted by only using one or two markers. So that's enough on the concept of success, but let's look at the concept of fear. Let's look at what fear is not. Fear is not weakness because there's plenty of people that have to work through that emotion and move through it. Fear is a messenger, is nothing more than a signal. It is not the enemy. It is an electrical signal. It is signaling some level of meaning. That's it. Now, when we look at joy, right? What it's not is this constant happiness and this constant external pursuits. The more external things I get, the more I'm constantly filling these voids. Basically, it's like multiple voids across time, and your happiness will be dependent on the constant chase. You'll never be truly happy with who you are on the inside just by itself, right? So it's the constant of it. Joy includes wholeness, not denial of hardship, right? Joy and contentment, being content with who you are, is crucial because that means you could live with it and you can live without it. Now, that doesn't mean that, we should just go with the flow and not be successful. No, you give it your 100%, you give it your 110%. You go for the success that you want. But you have to be happy with who you are. There's plenty of wealthy, miserable people. That's what you have to understand. It's like not everybody who's got this is really so happy on the inside. Some of them are quite empty, matter of fact. They have to keep acquiring in order to keep that happiness. You see, that I have to acquire more and more. And then what happens is they wind up losing it and gaining it back and going into bankruptcy and going to all these different things. And there's no sense of true contentment on the inside. Now let's talk about vulnerability. Vulnerability, what it's not. It's not weakness. It's not exposure. The concept of vulnerability gets thrown into a militaristic lens, the lens of the military, where if you have a tank and it has a vulnerability, that means it can be destroyed. And this is the perpetuated concept that gets people confused. Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. It's the birthplace of courage into meaningful expression. And if that vulnerability is not conveyed back, You may want to consider whether or not you want to continue to invest in that. Let's talk about shame. Shame, what it's not, it is not guilt, it is not humility. Guilt is different from shame. Shame says, I am bad, while guilt says, I did wrong, right? So shame does connect to a level of what we call inadequacy, right? That a person has a belief that they didn't meet some kind of standard or criteria. Either that belief was given from a parent or if it was given from society in some way, shape, or form. So that can happen as well. And then when it comes to humility, humility is not self-deprecation. It is also not insecurity. To be humble can actually be a massive strength. In martial arts, one of the tenets on the walls are literally humility. So I've visited dozens of schools myself, and I've always saw that written on the wall, and I just pointed at that, nodded my head, and I was always happy to see that. And I knew what kind of school I was in when I saw that. Humility is strength without the need to be perfect. Okay. Now, what's the psychology and understanding this emotional contrast, right? The contrast method here that we're going over, it relates to emotional granularity. All right. That's the ability to just identify and distinguish between emotional experiences, what is true and what isn't. And that's the whole thing is that when we figure out how do you know what truth is to figure out what it's not, right? The illusion of things. There's a lot of fantasies that people project out there. And that's the confusion that people are going through. They'll visit 700 YouTubers, 700 different influencers, and come out confused or ask themselves, like, do I really want to invest in? They'll look at a video and say, do I really want to invest in this video and waste 10 minutes of my time? What if I get nothing out of it, right? And they may question whether or not to venture in that. So they're becoming more and more discerning of certain things. So differentiation, it helps people become emotionally intelligent and it helps people become resilient. It helps us to see the truth of things are, how they actually are. It's knowing what something is not because that helps you understand because there's a lot of distortions, right? There's a lot of distorted points of view out there. So when knowing what something is not can clear those distorted beliefs that have been formed in childhood or picked up in your conditioning or formed around in your circles, right? And guess what? This also connects itself to those people that are rooted in traumas, is that they need to understand what something is versus what it's not. So I want you to ask yourself, because to know what love is to know what love is not, right? It's an emotional contrast. Ask yourself, what have I mistaken for love? What did I grow up thinking confidence actually was, right? Because we want to strip away the clay and discover the statue, the beauty that's underneath, right? Um, what is love not? What is confidence not? What is success not? What's not success, right? What is fear not? What is joy not? Right? Some people will say, well, oh, the opposite of joy is pain. No, 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 no. We're not going in the opposites here. We're not saying, well, the opposite of joy is pain. No, no, we're not going to the opposite. We're understanding the lack of joy, right? The lack of contentment, right? We want to have that understanding. Vulnerability, right? What is vulnerability and what it's not, right? When you understand the contrast of things, you become more and more emotional intelligent and you start to really see things for as they are, not as you are. And that's all we're going to say for today. Have a great day. See you on the next video.